I'm Dan Drake. This is Front Up on Geno TV and Channel 99. Our guest today is PetVanDingstee, who is the owner of a couple of spots on the downtown Nantucket, which I hope he's going to tell us about. Pete, welcome.
Sure. Hi,
nice
Dan. Nice to meet you. Officially.
Officially,
yeah.
Right. So tell us about your establishments.
Sure. Well, I'm the owner of the soda fountain at Nantucket Pharmacy, and I've been there. This is my 20th season. Took it over after Annie Marks retired out, who was there for 12 years, and I might be the oldest jerk on Main Street, if you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
I do know what
Most
you're
people
talking
won't, but a soda jerk is, what
Old-
they used to call old terminology for somebody who had a soda fountain.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you have the
I
other...
might be the biggest too. I'm at about 280 pounds, so I could be the biggest old
well,
jerk.
You might be. Probably not, though. The other one.
The other one is Pete's Fresh Fish Prints down on Old South Wharf. I do a Japanese style of artwork called giyataku, which means fish rubbing, way of recording the catch before the camera was invented. So I do impressions off of real fish.
So it's basically, in a broad sense, an art gallery.
Correct. Yep. I have an art gallery down there. Yep. 5 years.
And how's that been going?
Art gallery's good. I've been. It's my passion. I love being creative. Do a lot of different things. Do a lot of unique things. Most people that come to Nantucket have never seen anything like it. Although there are giyataku artists out in the broader part of the world. I had a fortunate, opportunity to study with Mineo from Japan, who has the Giyataku Art School. He was coming to America, and I studied with him in the Adirondack Mountains when he came here to fish for salmon. So, I've had.
I wish we had a sample to show our viewers, but tell us a little bit.
Geno will pull something out of history and fit it in for me.
Tell us how the process works.
Okay, so the process is I take a fresh fish. It gets brought into me, whether it's by somebody who caught their first fish, a kid's first fish, largest fish, just an odd fish. Got some weird creatures from offshore. And so I take the fish in a multi-stage process. I remove the eye, dry the gill plates, I plug and seal the nasal and anal cavity, I strip the fish of all of its oil, and once that's complete,
how long does that take with, say, a 30-inch striper?
Well, it all depends on the condition, how it's brought to me. If it's been brought to me in ice, or if it's fresh out of the boat. Every one of them is different. The preparation process can be a long time, making sure that the temperatures of the fish equal the temperatures of the studio, which is really important, so that the fish isn't sweating. And that allows the paint to adhere to the fish itself. So in that process I was speaking for before was that I take the fish and build a form for it to sit into so it doesn't move. And that also allows me to open the fins, because the fins are muscles that retract back into the fish's body, Dan. Yeah. So when I'm doing it, I want it to simulate what it's looking like in the water, not at the fish market. And so I take the fish at that point, I put a primer coat on it and strip that off. Now I won't have any fish odors into my paper. So, the involvement before I actually put the paint on the fish is quite, lengthy. And then I take the fish at that point, I paint it, whether it's single color or multicolor. I have special type of papers from Japan, Egypt, Nepal, China, Thailand, all kinds of different, we call them rice papers. They're not necessarily made out of rice, but it's the type of
consistency.
Yep. And so some are thin, some are heavier. I have paper that has bamboo in it, so that you actually have to work with pieces of bamboo through paper. And it's the fun part for me is finding those papers to create the different images. Otherwise, striped bass are striped bass, and bluefish are bluefish, except for size. I get to spend more time with the fish than the guy who catches it. That's a good part for me, My fishing hasn't been up to par lately because I'm spending so much time working, but I'm good with that. My time will come as soon as the pressure comes down a little bit. And now we're getting the false albacore, and my favorite fish to chase. So hopefully, after we get finished here in this interview and I do a little work today, maybe I'll make it to the beach. I don't know.
That'd be great. So then you paint the fish basically.
Yeah, the fish is my template. So I'm painting the fish, and then I put the material over afterwards. And with my fingertips and my fingernails, I bring back all those details of the fish to the paper. So
how long does that process take?
Again, all depends on the size of the fish. You know,
Right.
so I mean, I never put a watch on and go. But the one thing I do is I use
an average an hour or 5 hours or
like from beginning to end. I could say a few hours. You know, not trying to avoid anything, but just I never I go in there, and it also depends on what the fish is, because I always use non-toxic inks, and the fish is valuable. I don't want to just kill fish to create art. So we use non-toxic inks, and that way when we're finished, I can wash the fish off, fillet it, and we can have a meal out of it. So it goes full circle.
Right.
And that's the important part of that aspect of how the fish comes to me. How long has it been sitting on the beach, or those type of things.
Do you make more than one print from any given fish?
I try to get one really good one. So a lot of times what happens, the paper, if the fish is too wet, if the fish's body isn't right at the right temperature, the inks will start blending,
running, and
and so bleeding together, and then you'd lose the detail. So sometimes you can get 2 or 3. It depends. It really depends on the fish itself, and certain fish don't have a lot of scale detail. If you get a mahi or a tuna, or a mako shark, that's a big fish, and there's guys who've been on the water all day long, and they want to get that fish cut up so they can go have a cold beer at the Anglers Club or something like that and relax afterwards. They're waiting on me and my volunteers that help me create those larger pieces. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's very interesting, and
you just have to come down and take a look.
I will. I mean, I'm sure I've seen it, but I've never been in. I'm ashamed to say.
The gallery's on Old South Wharf, which there's a lot of people on Nantucket who live here year round don't even know where Old South Wharf is.
Well, that I know.
But and it's funny, So for me, having a retail store down there is kind of nice, because you're not in the flow of the High Line dock where people are in and out because they got 5 minutes. I like to spend time, be able to communicate with people exactly about the process and things like that. And my shop is 16 by 11, so it's about the same size as a studio, and very small.
So one more question on Old South Wharf. Is the traffic fairly steady there? Is it? It's a tough. It would be, I would think, a bit of a tough place to do business.
It is, it's because it's a hidden gem over there. It makes it so that traffic flow is less. We, pay high rents where we are. We stay open long hours to be able to try to, do enough business to stay.
Justify it,
Yep, and you see some shops changing down there now and then. There used to be all artists that were there in 60s, 70s. And they were, prior to that, there was all commercial fish guys that had shanties down there. That's basically what I'm working out of. With that being said, the people that do come, spread the word a little bit.
It's owned by Nantucket Island Resorts, right?
That's correct, yes.
Do they do anything to promote it?
They have little brochures and things that they hand out, which, if you saw them, I think they could do a better job, and that's being a tenant. But I'm appreciative of the things that they do. They have a lot of properties that they take care of, and they have concierge and people that steer people down towards the restaurant or come look at the cottages that they have down there. Maybe more towards their own, amenities that they offer, to try to pull them out of the hotel and bring them to another aspect of where they can stay on the island. But with having a retail shop there, there's definitely a tenth of the traffic flow, maybe less, of what's happening on the other wharf. And people get off the boat, they head straight up Main Street, which is good for me because I got a coffee shop. But I think in general, people are starting to discover it. It's I do a lot of advertising, Only Magazine, Yesterday's Island, put a lot back into the community that way by trying to draw the business in. You know, the Inquirer Mirror has an Old South Wharf page that a bunch of us put into, and they, you know, they feature a different store every week. That really works out to help us get some attention to Old South Wharf. But again, there are people that have no clue. If you ask probably half the people that work on the other wharf, they've never walked over to the other side.
Let's talk about the coffee shop.
Yeah, sure.
That's on a more visible place. There's a lot more traffic.
Yeah.
Does that make it easier or more difficult?
Well, you know, I mean, the soda fountain is a small place and it works on volume. You know, I've been there for 20 years. You know, I've tried to keep my prices really low. It makes it difficult because everything else is more expensive. Maintenance, you know,
Do you have a
dump
you have a
fees.
lease there, I assume?
Yeah, yeah.
that
I have a
what-
great landlord, Alan Bell, who owns
The pharmacy.
the Nantucket Pharmacy.
Right.
He's, you know, he and I have worked together for all these years, and probably I could say I'm the only person in Nantucket who's had a business for 20 years that doesn't have a key to his own door.
Interesting.
And I've never missed a day, even when I was sick in the 90s. I was, you know, sent off island on medevac 5 times, and in a short period of time, and never missed a day in all those years. You know, I have great staff. Those are the people that carry me through, and they're the people that see, you know, the locals come back, or the summer residents year after year. And I'm very fortunate. I have committed, you know, employees that have been with me for a long time, and that's what's made my business be able to stay and keep part of Nantucket history alive, and I hope to be able to continue to do that.
When the other pharmacy was open, there right next door, it had a soda fountain
Yep,
as well.
when Congdon's Pharmacy was there, Joanne and David had it there for 12 years, and then a couple of other people had it 1 or 2 years, and the last year that it was a pharmacy in there, they didn't have a tenant, so I actually ran both. So I had that soda fountain for the 6 months because they knew they had a sale at the end of the summer. So that was kind of unique. I'm the only person that can ever say they had both soda fountains in town.
That's
So,
quite
you
a
know,
claim to fame.
I claim myself as a legend in town, yeah.
What are the particular challenges of running an operation like that? It is small.
Yep, it's
Space is cramped.
it is, you know, but it's a partnership between the pharmacy and myself. You know, we have people that come in and get their medications or just need some things, and they'll come by and wait for that and have a cup of coffee and a chat. So, you know, we are, it's like being a psychologist, sober bartending. I don't know what you want to call it, but you know, you know, and I've known Gino for a lot of years, and it's been, you know, we have our relationship because of just sharing conversation over cups of coffee and watching his son grow up and watching a lot of kids in town grow up, having those kids come to work for me after I gave them cake cones without ice cream in it when they were teething and having a little bad day, you know, because they couldn't get the toys from the pharmacy section. So, you know, it's, but the challenge...
And now you see them bringing their kids in.
The challenge has become, you know, to try to maintain what you do, keep the prices down, still be able to do the salaries, the payroll for, you know, the employees, because minimum wages and things like that, or wages keep increasing, you know, refrigeration, you know, those, you know, when you have a breakdown, it's a nightmare. But, you know, we have good response teams, you know, like local guys like Homer and, you know, the plumber guys. If you have a little situation, people think, oh, you know, gosh, I got to pay, you know, $2 for a cup of coffee. They don't realize what goes into that cup of coffee. It's not just the water coming out of the thing, poured in a cup and go. You know, there's a huge
infrastructure.
There's a huge backside of business, you know.
Especially a food business.
Especially a food business. You know, I can tell you that, you know, we've been open every holiday except for Christmas. We're there 364 days a year for the community. You know, I can say that over anybody. There's nobody else that holds that many days open as far as, you know, a small business on island. And the one day that we're closed, the other pharmacy that Alan has, Island Pharmacy, carries that day, and then and then we carry New Year's. So I mean, if you had a night out on New Year's and you need a sponge, you can come and get a breakfast sandwich with me, or a good cup of coffee, or a frap. Sometimes they need a frap just to balance out.
I'd go for the frap.
Dan.
What did you do before you ran the
soda fountain?
Soda fountain.
I used to have the Dory restaurant in '88 and '89. And my history goes back to being bar manager of the largest rock and roll bar in South Florida. That's where I moved to Nantucket from there. I cooked in the military in the 82nd Airborne Division.
What brought you to Nantucket?
Well, my friend Chris Wraith was, who still lives here, and most of his siblings live here. He was working at Glidden's Fish Market for Walter Glidden, and I came out to visit him Labor Day weekend, 1985.
The rest is history.
I went back to Florida, and I said to my girlfriend, who I was, pretty recent, relationship at that time, and I said, she said, "How'd you like Nantucket?" And I said, "Well," I liked it a lot. I said, "How'd you like to spend a summer there?" And she said, "Well, what would we do?" And I said, "If you have a place to live, there's plenty of jobs."
Right.
And so the next spring, I packed up an old Ford Bronco and headed north, and here we were, from Fort Lauderdale. And I've come and gone a few different times, but
you're here.
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
here.
I'm here. It's good.
And you're a pillar of the community from a business standpoint.
Well, I'd like to think so.
That soda fountain plays a real role in keeping downtown Nantucket vibrant.
I can tell you the other thing that's very difficult. There's a lot in that respect. There's a lot of little pop-ups that have happened since then. So the pie is getting smaller and smaller, and I applaud those people for giving it a run in business. But the core in town is held together by the pharmacy, by the hub.
Which is now competing with you too.
Yeah, and and they're doing a great job. They're different, and it's a takeout for them, and I do a lot of my business as takeout. But there's room for everybody as long as things stay on a fair playing level when you're in your rents and things like that, so that you can carry through. Wintertime is tough. We carry a big commitment of keeping the doors open, and you can be there for a couple of hours in the daytime and not have anybody walk in, and then it's like the tide pushes them in,
right,
and the tide sucks them out. And everybody comes in at 12 o'clock. You can set your watch at 11:30. You can get a seat at 12 o'clock, 12:05. You're looking at some people there, and then that's great too, because you see people from business or from that come in from out of town, and they have communication and get a chance to talk or say, hey, how's your dad? He wasn't feeling too good last week, and we're one of the first people to find out that somebody passed, and there's a lot of emotional things that happen through the soda fountain that people don't understand, because you're dealing with people that want to eat, and then you're dealing with people that are there, because they have
want a community. They have a community there.
They have a community, yeah. And so that was good when there were two, and then when I had two, it was like I had just had an extension of 8 more stools at the other soda fountain. So I'd be like, I changed the menu a little bit over there, and that was kind of fun. People go, oh, how are you doing with 2? And I go, oh, my customers have 8 more seats. Now I got 8 seats, so you gotta come in there and kind of slide in for the right time.
Pete Van Dingst, thank you very much.
Hey, Dan, it's a pleasure. Yeah.
Good luck with the soda fountain in the future, and keep those fraps coming.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. Can't get a thicker one anywhere.
All right.
All right. Thanks.